everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have the Specter Elite Specialization to dive headfirst into. This Elite Spec is really out there. It's quite unique with the purpose of its weapon and its overall direction, especially when you consider that this is the Thief Elite Specialization. Historically, thieves have been very selfish, but with the Specter, you are extremely kind to others and helping them out during the fight. For this build, it is a bit more about supporting your allies and not necessarily super open world. Unless you're farming metas, you can definitely use this. So this is slightly different, but we'll go into the armor, weapons, traits, and then the utilities. As for the armor for this build, I've been running with Plague Doctors to gain a little bit extra out of that condition damage and vitality, just in case if I am out in the open world and I need to defend myself a little bit. But the healing power and concentration come in quite handy. I'm still surprised that we don't have a healing power condition damage main stat and then concentration expertise as minor secondary stats. That seems to be kind of like a no-brainer, but it has continued to elude us. For my weapons, I'm running with Scepter Dagger and Sword Pistol for the offhand. I usually camp Scepter Dagger, so it's not that much of an issue of weapon swapping. Now let's go to the build. For the build, I'm taking Trickery, Shadow Arts, and Specter. I'm taking Thrill of the Crime to allow some boons to roll on my allies, Bountiful Theft for extra vigor, and finally Sleight of Hand. Stealing also dazes the target and reduces the recharge of Steal, which also affects our F1, and with this particular build, you're going to want to get a lot out of that F1 for, reduction of cooldown and being able to use it. For Shadow Arts, it's very supportive. I'm taking Merciful Ambush, extra healing when stealth and also revive. Shadow Savior, after completing a Shadow Step, you're healed, but nearby allies are healed for an even larger amount. Finally, Shadow's Rejuvenation, regenerate health and initiative while in stealth. This is slightly more selfish, just in case. The other traits for this, gaining stealth blinds nearby foes, blinding a foe siphons health from them. It can bolster extra damage. Specter. For this build, I'm running Second Opinion. A portion of condition damage is converted to healing power, a Plague Doctor. Gain healing power, which is increased when wielding a scepter. So you're getting a lot of healing power just from this specific trait. Next, I'm taking Traversing Dusk to slot into that Alacrity support. Alacrity is an extremely important boon in group settings, and this is no different. Specter does have access to Alacrity via wells when you take this trait. Additionally, you heal allies in the area when you Shadow Step, so you're gaining a double effect out of Shadow Savior, but ultimately, I don't think that first part needs to be on this trait. It feels like they bloated a little bit too much, but that's neither here nor there. Finally, for the Grandmaster, I'm taking Shade Step. Siphon now grants you barrier when targeting enemies, and it revives allies when targeting them. Shadow Stepping breaks your barrier and grants it to nearby allies, proportional to the number of allies affected. I like Shade Step so much. This trait allows you to be a babysitter for strike and raids. You're able to target a downed ally and press F1 and instantaneously get them back up. Even if they're not able to get up instantly, you do give them quite a lot of downstate health to allow yourself and your allies to have more time to react. So it is definitely a great Grandmaster trait to take if you want to play that group support role. Now for my utilities, because I am taking the Traversing Dusk trait, I am going with a lot of wells. Well of Gloom allows you to heal yourself and allies in the area. Of course, Alacrity will be on all of these wells. Well of Bounty is the next well for a support build I would recommend, just to pop boons on as many people as possible and as many boons as possible. I'm taking Well of Sorrow for open world because I need extra damage. However, if you're in group content and you know that break bars are going to be a big issue or want to help with break bar damage, Well of Silence is a great option. And then finally, and additionally, with the break bar damage, Shadowfall is great for additional damage, crowd control, and Defiance bar damage. Once again, Alacrity on all of these. For the middle slot, my 8th button, I'm taking Shadow Refuge for more on-demand healing. Thieves don't have that many abilities that slot into the direct support category. Shadow Refuge is really the one utility to do that. So everyone, that was the overall build. Because this build is so reliant on group explanation and group content, I actually have gameplay of a strike, and I will be going over there and discussing what I did in that scenario and give an overall impression of Specter. Hello everyone, and welcome to the gameplay section. Let's chat a little bit more about Specter. In the background, you'll be watching some strike mission gameplay. I just thought Specter is so focused on helping allies and really slotting into that group role, at least with this build, that it'd be wise to showcase a strike mission. But as you can see in the background, I have decided to not really camp as much in action camera. And I think the Specter is really fun with its new single targeting abilities, but as you might see, because I'm not in action camera as much as I usually am, there are some issues still with the single target aspect. I think they have improved it greatly with updating the hotkeys where you can target closest ally, you can cycle to the next ally, but I really think that there should be further refinements on that front. I think the hotkey that cycles to next ally also targets minions and minis and pets and other friendly AI, and in most situations that is not necessarily needed. Additionally, it would be nice to have a hotkey that targets lowest health ally, at least for action cam users like myself, but I have gotten used to not using action camera as much and playing with the health bars of my allies. Another thing to note is further UI adjustments should be considered, I believe, with the single target stuff. It's not impossible to use, but it could be better if the UI positioning for squad health bars could be, repositioned to the player's own desires. That's a bit of talking points on the UI and single targeting in this game right now, but let's get into the actual gameplay. So with the single targeting, I actually really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun to use. It's a different playstyle that supports have not really had the pleasure of experiencing in Guild Wars 2 before, and for that reason alone, I really gravitated towards Specter in the betas and especially since launch, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. I think the one reason Specter is good has to be for that Grandmaster trait, Shade Step, that allows your F1, your Siphon ability, to revive any downed allies. It is so incredibly strong in PvE content in most cases. There can be some environments where so many people are going down so frequently where it becomes a little bit more difficult to get use out of it to such a wide degree, especially when you compare it to something like a Necromancer. But it's still nice in these, smaller settings of strike missions where 1 or 2 people are going down, and you can get a lot of use out of that. As you can see throughout the video, I always use my F1 on downed allies. Aside from this, your Specter Scepter abilities apply a lot of barrier. Now, this is the one area in which I'm not necessarily in total agreement with. There is so much barrier on this class, and it is so single target, that it's kind of hard to predict who is going to get damage, especially because in these strike missions and throughout the game, there is no clear method of tanking. I can get into a whole debate about this and a whole topic, and I'll probably have a separate video about healing in Guild Wars 2, but as the Specter stands right now, I don't necessarily agree with it having a surplus of barrier when it comes to endgame group content. I think perhaps they could shift portions of the barrier application to also apply healing, like split the abilities to do like half healing, half barrier, at least for the Scepter second skill. I think it's called like Shadow Sap or something along those lines, where it applies a really healthy amount of barrier. It's nice, but it could be more beneficial to even offset that, reduce the barrier by a little bit, also give it a bit more flat healing. And I think especially with the dual wield skills for Specter, I'm using Twilight Combo here. Twilight Combo provides a lot of barrier and very minimal healing. I think that should be flipped. I think the third ability, at least on this dual wield, should apply more healing and less barrier, considering you have ample application of barrier on both the auto attack and the Specter second skill. One reason I say this is because it's hard, as I said before, to predict who is going to be taking damage. And you can't correct damage that's done with barrier. You can only prevent further damage from being applied. So it does put you in this weird position where you're actually not that great of a single target support in group settings. However, and thankfully through traits, you are able to pad extra AoE healing via shadow steps, via, other utility skills like Shadow Refuge, and maybe even some regen procs. So it's not entirely, by the wayside, and it's not entirely useless in AoE settings, but it is a bit weaker. So I have a little bit of a mixed review about the Specter now that I have been able to play more of it, and especially in endgame content. I really think there should be more upfront healing on this kit. I think barrier is totally nice, and I don't want it to be completely rid of, but I think there should be a little bit extra healing, especially because it's only single target. We have other abilities in this game where you not only apply straight up raw healing, but apply hardy amounts of barrier. So in comparison, it is weaker, especially when you compare it to the elite spec with this expansion, the Mechanist. The Mechanist is the easiest support class to play and really outshines Specter in all the departments of actual upfront healing and support with both its barrier and healing. That's another conversation about the philosophy of how you balance healing in this game, which I feel for many years now has been really poorly done. But this is the Specter. Honestly, use your wells where you see fit. Get that Alacrity rolling. It's not too hard because wells, you plop them down into location. Everyone in that area will receive that Alacrity upon your shadow step. And just try to relax your mind a little bit and breathe if you can to target allies that need extra support. And if they are taking damage and they continue to take damage, feel free to pop some barrier on them so that maybe another ally can heal them or they can have more time to heal themselves. Other than that, your shadow form, your shadow shroud is not the best when it comes to support. It is a little weird, and I kind of expect it to be buffed a little bit or altered in some way. It's not great, but however, I should say, it's a great tool for your own survival. It replaces your health pool with a very large shadow shroud. So if you are in a tricky situation, pop your F2 and you will feel totally invulnerable to most things. But everyone, that was my Specter build, Specter group support, a little conversation about the Specter in group content with its single target healing, a little bit more philosophical discussions about healing and support in Guild Wars 2. If you like this build, like the video, comment down below what you thought about Specter. Are you playing something different? How are you all experiencing Specter, especially in group content, open world versus group versus PvP? I would love to hear all about it. If you'd like to support the channel, I have a Patreon where you get early access to these videos and some exclusive content. If you'd like to order Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons, I have links below, courtesy of ArenaNet. And if you're interested in VPN services where you can get those spicy VPNs to change your location and get exclusive access to the region you choose, I have ExpressVPN links down below. Thank you so much. Wonderful seeing you all today, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye, everybody. Mwah.